for a very contemporary look, try please to check out our videos and like and subscribe and all that, because that's a lot of our coverage goes to that. But Iran has a very mixed. Generally, I would say Iranians sort of, just like Turks, in a way, they view all. There is a bit of a patronizing or condescending look from the, like Turks and Iranians sort of view these as former lands that belong to us and we should rule again. So there is that strain within Iranian thought. I think not a very positive one, perhaps. But Iran has very negative relations with Saudi Arabia, obviously. With UAE, it's a bit of a mixture, very negative political relations, but one of the bigger economic partners. You have other countries like Oman that have relatively good relations with Iran. Kuwait, somewhat better than Saudis. They play the middle ground. So you can't say Iran's relations to Arab countries because it's really varied nation to nation. Or, for example, they have very good relations with Palestinian authorities
And
uh,
Qatar.
and Qatar. Yeah, but they have very very negative relations with UAE and Saudi. And for example, Egypt. Has been a major enemy of Iran because Iran, there was the person who assassinated Anwar Sadat was hailed as a national hero in Iran, and Egypt gave refugee to Mohammad Reza Shah. So because of that, the relations with Egypt is very strained indeed, and so a very complicated relationship. And Arabs are, I think, at least not all Arabs, obviously, certain groups within Arab community believe that Iran is, they are planning as soon as America or whoever is allies of Arabs goes, they're gonna take over, they're gonna attack them. They want to revive their old empire. So, the relationship is characterized by that. With Turkey, Iran's relationship has been a sort of a good-natured rivalry, I would say. They tend to not interfere in each other's politics since at least Safavid onwards. And in fact, they've played a stabilizing role in each other's country. And generally, I would say Iranians and Turks are very, very far more similar in terms of culture and everything than either side wants to admit. Uh, Sadly, Iran never really been active in terms of its relations with Caucasus or Central Asia, because these are countries with significant historical, uh, Iranian historical baggage. Iranian, like Tajikistan, they speak Farsi, but there hasn't been much active relations with those countries. But they keep good relations with everybody. With Armenia, they have a especially strong relation. Um, uh, been a supporter of Armenia for a long time. Afghanistan, they played a more important role because Afghanistan situation in Afghanistan plays significant role in Iran, like the drug trade, civil war, all of that affects Iran significantly. So in Afghanistan, they've been playing a role for a long time. They supported the Northern Alliance before America's invasion of Afghanistan, and they still are one of the big players there. With Pakistan, they have a very strange relationship because Pakistan is, it's an Islamic country, but it's a Sunni country, and it's traditionally more of an ally of Saudi Arabia. But at the same time, it has major land border with Iran, and they used to be great relations between the two. It's been it very much depends on the government of Islamabad and Pakistan and how close they are to Saudis, because Pakistan, due to financial and economic troubles, sometimes has to basically follow the lead of Saudis or others in many ways. But interestingly, for example, Imran Khan, the current prime minister of Pakistan, or president, my apologies, I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
He's significantly influenced by Ali Shariati's writing, who was seen as a major ideologue behind the Iranian Revolution, somebody who died before the Iranian Revolution, but his thought heavily influenced political Islam and in around the world. So there are deep kind of one of the major poets of Persian language is Iqbal Lahori, who's a Pakistani. He's seen as a major figure in Pakistan's independence movement and literature, all that. So Iran has very mixed relations with its neighbors. But I would say, besides the Arab nations and Middle East, if we take them away, Iranian foreign policy has always been somewhat reactive rather than active, and they usually wait for events to happen and then they react. They don't develop relationships. They don't do that type of thing. Oh, it's important to mention between the Arab nations, Iran probably has the strongest historical and uh, economic and political ties to Iraq and Lebanon, because these are also countries with largely Shia populations. These are countries where Iran has spent a lot of time and money during the last 50 years or so. And so
Very fascinating. And did you
that's an
mention
overview.
India?
No, because India is not a
Yeah,
neighbor per se,
yeah, that's
but
true.
I mean, I would say, yes, with India relations are usually good. India is a big buyer of Iranian oil, and they export a lot of steel and other things to Iran. Uh, Relations with India historically has been quite interesting. Historically we always fought Hindustan or the Mughal Empire, India, over Kandahar and all that. But since the modern times and the modern nation states, India, it's been very, very neutral, I would say,
Mm,
largely the relations. India was closer to Soviet Union back in the days, and Iran was closer to US. And then after the revolution and changes, now India is closer to US and Iran is closer to Russia. So,
very true.
there are these things, but they don't seem to affect their relationship too much. Although India was one of the nations that reduced its oil purchases from Iran during the last few years, which Iran took great offense at and was not happy about.
Okay, okay, very nice. And thank you everybody for watching. Please like and subscribe. So Sam, let's end on with the last question on a positive note. I mean, it's kind of easy question you could say, but so who are Iran's contemporary partners? Kind of mention some of them right now. I mean, you said Iran has very close relationship, of course, with Iraq and Lebanon, but yeah, even outside the region.
I mean, these are very political questions and
Mm,
can have I look, for example, Iran's biggest economic partners used to be before the 5 years ago. For example, was the European Union, right, and UAE, another one, for example. It's very strange because Iran right now, China plays a much bigger role in Iran's economy. Right now, politically speaking, Iran seems to be allied with Russia and China. That seems to be the case, politically speaking, on the international stage. However, it has major economic relations with European countries, especially Austria and Germany. Austria is usually Iran's biggest economic partner within Europe. Iran is also expanding its own sort of a sphere of influence in Lebanon, Iraq, and Africa. There is what some analysts call what's called a scramble for Africa going on again right now, where with China, America, and Russia, vaccine have become a new era, a new field, a new theater for for international
an
politics to be
entry
played in.
point at the very least. To,
So Iran is also like, for example, they supported Shia movements in Nigeria or that type of thing. So Iran is growing its own web of allies as well. But Iran is seen largely uh, as an ally of China and Russia. I would say that the Russia one is to an extent exaggerated. Interestingly, for example, when you live in Turkey uh, or when you go to Russia, Russian-speaking countries or Russia, you see far more of the products of the two countries, like Turkish products in Russia or Russian products in Turkey, right? And you see far more tourists of the two nations. Iranians don't really, you don't see that much economic cooperation with Russia. You don't see that much ease of travel with Russia. Uh, with China, what you see is major infrastructural projects taking place with Russia, as well as just like everywhere else in the world, Iran pretty much imports everything from China as well. I would say Iran is largely, like most nations, is not part of a very fixed alliance, right? And but but right now politically they're closer to Russia and China. Right now, I think they want to be closer to Europeans, though. In their heart of hearts, the current government and the state, they want to be closer to European Union because there's more money there and all that. But I don't think that's politically feasible anymore, at least for a while.
Yeah, very true, very good stuff. And yeah, it is always fluid and moving. And I mean, China is China, but I guess Iran also had a little alliance going on with Brazil and Venezuela maybe like 10 years ago. But that was more probably
Yeah,
spiritual, maybe some selling of
no,
oil,
no.
of course, or was there?
With Venezuela, you can say it's grown. For example, they sent a lot of petrol,
Hmm.
or as Americans call it, gas to Venezuela. That
Sending a lot
during
of
the
gas
hard
to
times,
gas-rich country,
there are
insane.
there is a lot of there is a Iranian company called Kaysan, which is a major, one of the top 100 companies in the world in terms of infrastructure and housing. And Kaysan has built a lot of projects in Venezuela and less so in Brazil, because Brazil, even though the president was very, they were all leftist and they were sort of on the same messaging as Iranian government. Still the industries were controlled by very much pro-American forces and all that. But yeah, the relations with, just like Africa, relations with South America has grown significantly as well
Yeah.
in recent years.
Okay, very fascinating stuff. So as we mentioned a few times, we made all these videos about Iran because it's the Iranian New Year on the 20th of March, and we recorded videos specifically about Iranian New Year or Nowruz. So please go check those out as well. But yeah, anything else, Sam?
No, and yeah, these videos sort of, because we record all of this in one go, so they sort of, we refer to content from other videos and
Yeah.
stuff. I apologize for any inconsistencies, any unclarity, and yeah, I hope you enjoy them. And I think, yeah, these videos go well together. Sort of, we try to cover some very basic information about Iran that if you have, then you can basically get into more details more easily.
Exactly.
And please give us your feedback as well, because hopefully we're going to do more topical content rather than just covering news
Yeah.
analysis. Maybe start looking at issues more significantly.
But yeah, but we'll return to the Iranian nuclear deal and all that stuff, and of course Iranian elections in a few months. So we'll be covering all of that. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Please share your comments and thoughts, as Sam said, in the description box, and we'll see you in our next video. Thank you.